All praise to the Most High, Ahaya, and to his son, YAHAYASHA, Messiah, YAHAYASHA. This is Brother Holly here with the second Spirit of Truth broadcast here on the Ahaya House channel, as well as the House of Ahaya channel, on this set-apart Sabbath day. First and foremost, as always, I give all glory, praise, and honor to the great I am, he who is, was, and is to come, the Almighty One, YAHAYAHA, and to his son, YAHAYASHA, Messiah, who gave himself for us that we might have life, and that life is in him, YAHAYAHA. Now, in the second broadcast, we're going to read a bit of scripture from the book of Acts, and from Amos, and from Torah, and we're going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt who these so-called goyim, these so-called gayim, depends on which Hebrew you like. If you like the more ancient the most ancient Hebrew is galim. If you're more so into Yiddish Hebrew is goyim. Depending on your Hebrew preference, for lack of a better term, how you say it, who these so-called Gentiles are in the book of Acts, especially the ones that were told to keep Torah. And I'm going to show unequivocally that they were told to keep Torah. And, for those people who say, well, they couldn't have been told to keep Torah, they were just told to not eat blood and not to commit fornication and not to pollute themselves with idols. All those things are found in Torah. And it says very, very clearly that Moses is going to be preaching them in the synagogue every Sabbath day. So we know from the book of Jubilees that only one nation was given the rest of the Holy Sabbath to keep. That would be the nation of Yasha'Allah. We'll be reading from the Nazarene version today. And I don't read from this particular version of the scriptures very often. I came across it a long time ago when I first started becoming aware of who I am, and back in the old days, before Ahaya revealed his name unto me, I was calling the Most High by the wicked tetragrammaton, and this particular version is chock full of those kind of references. So I do not recommend this version of the scriptures primarily for that purpose. If you're mature, if you understand the prohibitions against using the names of these false deities, the names of the golden calf, the YHWH, and all versions like it, then if you're mature enough to understand that you can't say it, then I say feel free, but be careful. Be circumspect not to do it. Don't fall prey to just reading in haste and making a mistake that can be avoided just by reading a clean version like the Bible King James and Apocrypha version, the Truth Revealed and Restored, Abba Father, Ahaya, Yeshaya, Kodash Akkad, Ancient Paleo Hebrew English Bible. And as you know, I talk about that particular version a lot. And we read from it in the first broadcast. One of the reasons I talk about it a lot is relatively complete book of scriptures, and the name of the Most High and His Son are prominently displayed everywhere. So, and it's still, I think, right around $100. So it's really not that expensive of a reference for you to pick up if you're so inclined. But these are the references that I have found useful as I have grown and have continued in the faith, rooted and grounded and not moved away from the hope that is in me. All praises. So again, we're reading from the Nazarene version. Turn with me to Amos chapter 9, and let's start reading at verse 9. Amos, the book of Amos chapter 9, verse 9. It says, "For look, I am commanding, and I shall sift the house of Yasha'Allah among all the nations, as one sifts a sieve, yet not a grain falls to the ground. All the sinners of my people are going to die by the sword, those who are saying, evil does not overtake us nor meet us. In that Yom a day, I shall raise up the booth of David, which was fallen down. Now, what day he's going to raise it up? In the day after he has sifted the house of Yashala among the nations, then he's going to come a day that he's going to raise up the house of David, of David. I'll read it again. Amos chapter 9, verse 11. In that day, or Yom, I will raise up the booth of David, which is fallen down, and I shall repair its breaches and raise up its ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, so that they possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations on whom my name is called, declares Yahweh, who does this. Look, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the thredder of grapes him who sows seeds, and the mountain shall drip new wine, and all the hills melt. And I shall turn back the captivity of my people Yashala, and they shall build the waste cities, and inhabit them, and shall plant vineyards, and drink wine from them, and shall make gardens, and eat their fruit. Will you highlight? Now you notice I said Yahaya in the places where the YHWH appears. We know that Yahaya is the first name given for the Most High ever recorded in the scriptures. It's found in Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, and Genesis chapter 1, verse 6 in the underlying Paleo Hebrew. All praises. So we know, and it means he shall be. Ahaya is I will be, and Yahaya is he will be, or he shall be. So we're right there on point. We have a confirmation from 2 or 3 witnesses of the scriptures that Yahaya is a proper name for the Most High. All praises. So I'll read verse 14 again. Amos chapter 9, verse 14. And I shall turn back the captivity of my people Yashala, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. So who's going to build the waste cities? Who's going to build up the tabernacle of David? The children of Yashala, the same ones that were sent out in captivity amongst the nations. And when we read this prophecy, the fulfillment of this prophecy in the book of Acts, we're reading it from here. So that when we read it from Acts, when it says that the Gentiles got called out and were brought into the fold, you'll know what Gentiles is talking about. It's talking about the children of Yashala who were scattered among the nations. Those Gentiles. I'll read that again. Amos chapter 9:9. For look, I am commanding, I shall sift the house of Yashala among the nations, as one sifts with a sieve, yet not a grain falls to the ground. Not one of the children of Jacob that are mixed in with these heathens are not going to be identified and taken out from among them. All praises. And the apostles, we're going to read it in a moment in Acts. The apostles knew who their target audience was. When they went to the Gentiles, they weren't just going to your run-of-the-mill Gentile. They were looking for their brethren, according to the flesh, that were not Torah compliant, that were not circumcised in the flesh and the heart, that were not following the dictates found in the scriptures, were not waiting for the Messiah. None of these things. They were living as heathens, among heathens. But they were being called back to the faith, back to being rooted and grounded in truth. Back to Torah compliance. And we're going to read that they were told to be Torah compliant in a moment. All right, turn to the book of Acts, chapter 15. Let's start reading at verse 14. Acts 15:14. And Shimon has declared how Alahiah first visited the Goyim, or the Goyim, to take out of them a people for his name. Now, so who are these people for his name that are coming out of the nations, out of the Gentiles, out of the Goyim or the Goyim? Who are these people? We read about it. We just read it in Amos. Who these people are? They are the children of Yasha'Allah that were sent out, sifted amongst the nations. But not one grain of them, not one of them went missing. We read that in Amos chapter 9. I'll read it again. It says, Shimon has declared how Yahaya first visited the Goyim to take out of them a people for his name. And the words of the prophets agree with this, as it has been written, after this I shall. It says after this, because we know that the sifting of the children of Yasha'Allah from the book of Amos chapter 9 verse 9, that the sifting of the children of Yasha'Allah amongst the nations preceded the rebuilding of David's tabernacle. We saw in the scriptures we just read in the book of Amos that preceded the rebuild. And it's stating here it precedes the rebuild. I'll read it again. Acts 15:14, Simon has declared how Yahaya first visited the Goyim to take out of them a people for his name. And the words of the prophets agree with this, as it has been written, after this I will return and rebuild the tabernacle of David, which has fallen down. And I shall rebuild its ruins, and I shall set it up, so that the remnant of mankind, it says, shall seek Yahya, even all the Goyim on whom my name has been called, says Yahya. Who is doing all this? I'll put this in. Verse 18, who has made known from of old. Acts 15:19, therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Allahiyah. Listen to how it's reading. That we should not trouble them who are returning to Allahiyah from among the nations. Who was sifted among the nations? The children of Yasha'Allah. Now they're saying we should not trouble our brothers and sisters that are coming back into the fold. We should not trouble them. This is the apostles talking in the New Testament. We shouldn't trouble our returning brethren. I read it again, Acts 15:19. Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Allahiyah, but that we write to them to abstain from the defilement of idols. That's Exodus chapter 20, verse 4 through 6. We'll read in a moment. And from whoring, that's Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10 through 21. We'll read in a moment. And from blood. For from ancient generations, Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him being read in the congregations every Sabbath will you highlight. Now these returning children of Jacob, these people of Yasha'Allah, who were sifted among the nations, that the prophecy written in Amos can come to pass. They were bringing that prophecy was being fulfilled in their return. Yahya said he would bring them back. He brought them back. He said he sifted them among them. He said he was going to bring them back so they could rebuild. It is happening. And now that they're being brought back into the fold, they're having to be, for the lack of a better term, re-upped. They got to re-up. They got to learn their first works again. They got to be re-Torah. They got to be stamped again with the approval of Torah. They got to be told not to eat blood. They got to be told not to be a whoremonger. They got to be told not to bow before idols. Because when they were among the Gentiles, they were doing all those things. And they're also being commanded that, hey, you better be in the congregation every Sabbath to hear Moses being read. I'll read it all again. Acts chapter 15, verse 19, therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Allahayah, but that we write to them to abstain from the defilement of idols, and from whoring, and from that which is strangled, and from blood. For from ancient generations Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregations every Shabbat. Will you highlight? Now, the first thing that they were being reminded or reprimanded to do is to not bow before idols. Let's read that from Torah. Turn, if you will. Hold your place in Acts chapter 15. We're going back. Turn, if you will, to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. Let's start reading at verse 4. You do not make for yourselves a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the Shahamim, that is the heavens, above, or that which is in the Eretz, beneath, or the earth, or that which is in the Mayim, under the Eretz, that's the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, Yahayah, your Allahayah, am a jealous Allahayah, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing kindness to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. Will you highlight? So the eternal Ahaya is telling the children of Yasha'Allah, don't you dare bow down to no idol. Don't you bow down to nothing in the heavens, nothing on the earth, nothing in the waters, nothing under the waters. Don't you dare do it. Or he's going to visit the iniquity unto the third and fourth generation. And you've been marked down as a hater. You ain't going to love him if you do that. The first thing they were told to do, these returning children of Jacob, coming back into the fold. First thing they were told, don't you dare bow down to no idol. This is in the New Testament they were told this. And here it is in Torah. So they were being reintroduced to Torah compliance. Plain and simple. Because you won't find anything about not being an idolater. If it is, please put it in the comment section in the Gospels. If there's anything in the Gospels about not being an idolater, not bound before idols, I'd be more than happy to look at it. The master on the earth, he taught, don't bow to idols. Now, quite the contrary, in Matthew chapter 23, the Messiah told you to obey everything Moses said. He said that the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All they bid you from Moses to do, but don't do how they act. Don't act like they act. Do what they say that when they say something from Moses, but don't do what they do. Do what they say, not what they do. All praises. Because Torah is, every jot and tittle of Torah is still active until all be fulfilled. Messiah said that. Until heaven and earth pass, not one jot or tittle from Torah shall fall until all be fulfilled. So you got to not bow before idols even to this day, Hebrew. And that's what my shirt says, in case you're wondering. All praises. And yeah, it got fringes on it. And a ribbon of blue. All praises. See, once again, Brother Holly, Torah compliant. Torah compliant. Because we need to be Torah compliant. Even in the New Testament, the returning Hebrews are called to Torah compliance. And we're reading it now. Let's go back to Acts 15. Back to Acts. All praises. Start reading at verse 20 again. But that they should write to them to abstain from the defilement of idols. We read it. And from whoring. Let's read that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20. We're in Exodus 20. Now let's go to Leviticus 20. This is a long read, so I'm just going to read excerpts of it. You can go back and read the bulk of it yourself, but I'll read excerpts of it so you'll know what it's talking about. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10, let's read. And a man who breaks wedlock with an asha, or a wife of another man, who breaks wedlock with the asha of his neighbor, or the wife of his neighbor, the adulterer and the adulteress shall certainly be put to death. Verse 11. And a man who lies with the asha of his father has uncovered the nakedness of his father. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall certainly be put to death, for they have made confusion. Their blood is upon them. And a man who lies with a male as he lies with an asha, both of them have done abomination. They shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And a man who marries an asha and her mother, it is wickedness. They are burned with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness in your midst. Verse 15, this is Leviticus 20:15. And a man who has intercourse with a beast, he shall certainly be put to death, and the beast you kill. And an asha who approaches any beast and mates with it, you shall kill the asha and the beast. They shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And a man who takes his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, it is wickedness, and they shall be cut off before the eyes of all their people with Yahalai. And it just goes on and on. These are all the laws against whoremongering. All over Torah against whoremongering and bestiality and homosexuality. All forms of whoredom. And if you look into the apocryphal books in the book of Tobit, if you take a woman, we talked about this last week, Passport Brothers, you take a woman of another nation, you're committing whoredom. And you sister divesting, taking these men of other nations, getting you a zaddy, you're committing whoredom. And the penalty for whoredom is death. Wow. It may be tight, but it's right. And these are the things they were told not to do. These are New Testament believers coming back into the fold, coming back to faith, the Hebraic faith, the one faith which was once delivered unto the saints. They coming back to faith after being mixed in with them heathens. Ahaya mixed them in with the heathens. He didn't leave them there. He said, I'm going to bring them out. Not one of them is going to be lost. He said, not one grain of the corn that gets sifted shall fall to the ground. I ain't losing a soul. He going to bring them out. And when you bring them out, they're going to have to be reorganized and reinstituted under Torah and faith in Messiah. Oh, praises. Back to Acts. Acts chapter 15, verse 20. But that we write to them to abstain from the defilement of idols. We read that from Torah. And from whoring, we read that from Torah. And from that which is strangled, and from blood. Let's read it. Leviticus chapter 17. We're just in Leviticus 20. Let's turn over to 17. Let's start reading at verse 10. Leviticus 17:10 is about eating blood. And any man of the house of Yashala, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, who eats any blood, I shall set my face against that being who eats blood, and shall cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your lives. For it is the blood that makes an atonement for the life. Verse 12, therefore I say unto the children of Yashala, no being among you eats blood, nor does any stranger who sojourns among you eat blood. And any man of the children of Yashala, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, who hunts and catches any beast or bird which is eaten, shall pour out its blood and cover it with dust. For it is the life of all flesh. It its blood is for its life. And I say to the children of Yasha, do not eat the blood of any flesh, for the life of all flesh is in the blood. Anyone eating it is cut off. That clear enough for you? That's an automatic DQ. I had people eating blood pudding. Ugh. Hey, that sounds nasty. Eating organs of animals they kill. That's some kind of almost cavemanish ritual. They shoot a deer. People eating the heart of the deer. Full of blood, mouth full of blood. Eating your meat raw, tartar. It should not be amongst us. That's an unclean practice forbidden in Torah. We're to be a holy people unto YAHAYASHA. Not like the heathens who do such things. And our brothers and sisters were being brought back into the fold. How do we know they were our brothers and sisters of Yasha Allah? We read the prophecy that was quoted here in Acts 15 from the book of Amos that said the children of Yasha Allah shall be scattered among the heathen and shall be sifted among them as you sift seeds in a sieve. And it will be the children of Yasha Allah that will be regathered and put to the purpose of rebuilding the tabernacle. In both cases in Amos chapter 9, it's the children of Yasha Allah. Not some Canaanite, Perizzite, Jebusite, Amalekite, Edomite, Egyptian, Ethiopian. None of these people. None of these people called to the feast of God. None of these people called to the body of his son, YAHAYASHA. None of them. All these things are for us and pertain to us, including this teaching here in the book of Acts chapter 15. I'll read it again. Acts chapter 15, verse 20. But that you write unto them to abstain from the defilement of idols. That's Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 through 6. And from that which is strangled, and from blood. And from whoring. That's Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10 through 21. And from that which is strangled, and from blood. That's Leviticus chapter 17, verse 10 through 14. Verse 21 of Acts 15. For from ancient generations Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregation every Sabbath. That's the catch-all. If they don't get the instructions, it's not that these are just all the instructions they need. But it is a given that these people, once brought back into the faith, are going to be regular attending the assembly on the Sabbath to hear more. To hear more from the prophets, more from Moshe, more from what the Messiah said. And in these days, not only do we hear from what Moses wrote, not only do we hear what the prophets prophesied, not only do we hear that which is written in the Apocrypha by its prophets, not only do we hear what the Messiah said in the gospel, not only do we hear what brother Saul and brother John and brother James and brother Jude wrote in the epistles, and brother Peter. Sorry, I forgot about Peter. He got epistles too. We hear all those things here on these channels. For I, like the great apostle Saul, whom we all trust, I have not shunned to declare unto you the whole counsel. That's why we're in Acts today. This part of the whole counsel. And as you can see, there is no variation from the scriptures at all. We just read them. I'll read it one more time. But that we write to them to abstain from the defilement of idols. Exodus 24 and 6. And from whoring. Leviticus 20, 10 and through 21. And from that which is strangled, and from blood. Leviticus 17, 10 through 14. For from ancient generations Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregations every Sabbath. And like I just said a moment ago, not only Moses, but the prophets, not only the prophets, but the apocryphal writers, not only them, but the gospel writers, the words of the Messiah, not only them, but the epistles of the apostles, not only them, but the revelation of the apostles. Because Messiah said, I come in the volume of the book to do thy will. So from Genesis to the Revelation, Messiah, YAHAYASHA, has come to do the will of Ahaya. All praise to the Most High, Ahaya, and to his son, YAHAYASHA, Messiah, YAHAYASHA.